My name is Zanardi, and I have never had any trouble saying Maggiacomo. You know, when everything is going right, a Hall of Fame really honors people who have honored their particular pursuit. Hall of Fame membership should tell a story, in effect read like the official history of the game. Being a Hall of Famer should not be an easy thing. And today, we're here to honor someone that's in Dave's Golden Speedway, Jocko Maggiacomo. I think you can make a hero that Jocko was probably New England's first true stock car racing hero. I don't think there's any doubt that Jocko belongs in this group. Yeah, he was a Riverside Park guy, no question about it, but those of us who frequented Waterford in the 50s, tell you what, we knew who he was. And I suspect out there I can go to somebody and people who frequented Plainville or Cherry Park, I bet you they knew who he was too. Everywhere on what back then was Harvey Tattersall's United Racing Club, everybody knew who he was. He won a Grand American race at Waterford in 1957, and my brother and I were there, and I can still remember the excitement. I mean, those races were bang, crash type deals, and the Grand Americans, big cars, short tracks. But Jocko was very good at that kind of stuff. He was tempered by motorcycle racing and midgets and by lots of combat in World War II. The man was a short track racer, and boy, you don't get any higher than that in this guy's value judgment. You know, he came to Riverside in the 50s with car owner Gordon Ross, which made an interesting combination, they tell me. Gordon was just as tough as Jocko was. And he raced into the mid-1960s. That toughness never wavered. But it was more than toughness that brought the race, this sport, to what we sit here and enjoy today. He was also one of New England's first media darlings. I'm here to tell you, not an easy guy to talk to. He was not necessarily a media guy's favorite interview, but he was a guy that you had to write about. And he won lots of races in lots of places, and he drove for great guys, great equipment, for Gordon Ross, for Bobby Oliver, and for the Garudis. And if you look back at who he won against, you realize Jocko was an intricate part of New England stock car racing's infancy and its adolescence. Now, I suspect we have a lot of parents out there tonight or today, and those are two pretty tough periods to go through. In the beginning, he battled the likes of Ted Tappett, Al Keller, Dick Egan, Jim Reed, George Landry, Chuck Arnold, Sparky Belmont. Many, like Jocko himself, guys coming from the midget ranks, from the open cockpit ranks. And when he got out after winning the 500 in 1965, that Riverside field included guys like Charlie Brayton and Bobby Bard and Ed Patnode and Jerry Humiston. And isn't it absolutely wonderful, absolutely right, that he goes in today with one of his greatest competitors over almost his entire career, Buddy Krebs. And in between that, you're going to find near Hall of Famers that he raced against, like Gene Burgeon, Eddie Flemke, Rennie Charland, Red Foot, Bill Slater, and his 1965 Riverside 500 teammate, Billy Greco. It's more than fitting that he joins those guys here today. It's more than fitting because he had a great deal to do with the careers of all of them. I am extremely proud as someone who has a little interest in the history of this sport to be part of Jocko's going in today, and I gotta believe he's smiling down at us. Jim Rosenblum, who can tell you about Jocko's career after he got out of a race, after he stopped driving, after he was a crew chief on Jim's Winston Cup team with Jocko Jr. driving. is going to accept his award tonight. Jim, if you come on up.
Well, it's an honor and a privilege to be here representing Jocko Jr. Unfortunately, his mother's in the hospital. But Jocko, I wasn't around that much when he drove, but he was a great crew chief and a very good innovator. His driving record stands for itself. I mean, if you go on the internet, you'll see he holds the world's record for speed with a Holman Moody Falcon. But as far as a crew chief, he was quite innovative. He developed the first tire computer in a Daytona 500, '83 with Buddy Parrott and Joe Ruttman. He had the first flow bench with Richard Petty, and we also had a brake system at Watkins Glen, which didn't quite make it through inspection, and that's how we hit Dick Beattie's top 10, which is now in the Hall of Fame. And we had a few other things like freezing the water jacks and screw jacks. He was also a very tough guy. He was at Sebring when Salvador Sinisi, Alpha's #1 driver, got in a wreck, caught on fire. He went into the car and pulled him out. And President Johnson and the President of Italy gave him plaques and a few other things. But he was a tough guy, and he was fair, and he was a great racer. And speaking of tough, I'd like to congratulate somebody else here, Don LaJoy, who is a good old-time racer. And I got one story. We were in Pocono, and his son Randy was driving for us. And it's a typical Pocono weather, about 200 degrees and 100% humidity. And Randy comes into the pits, and he says, "I need water, I need water." And Don said, "Well, you, bleep, bleep, you run faster, you'll get water. Go on back out." So he came around. By the time he was 11th, Don gave him some water. So I congratulate Don, and I thank everybody for inducting Jocko into this Hall of Fame. Thank you.